What happens when an undercover CEO witnesses a manager cruelly humiliating a nervous intern, only to reveal a truth that no one saw coming? Jonathan Wells, CEO of Wells Tech Solutions, stood quietly near the reception desk of one of his company's regional offices. Dressed in a plain shirt, khaki pants and thick glasses, Jonathan had taken on the role of John, a quiet IT temp hired for the week. Jonathan's presence wasn't random. Troubling reports had reached him. Staff morale was low, turnover rates had surged, and whispers about Rick Saunders, the branch's senior manager, kept surfacing. Employees mentioned Rick's aggressive attitude, especially toward interns. Determined to uncover the truth firsthand, Jonathan had gone undercover. On his second day, Jonathan noticed a young intern named Daniel Perez seated at a small desk by the printer. Daniel's wrinkled shirt and the dark circles beneath his eyes suggested long hours and little rest. He nervously tapped his fingers on his desk, pausing between keystrokes as if terrified to make a mistake. "You okay?" Jonathan asked, pausing. "By his desk?" Yeah, Daniel muttered, forcing a smile. "Just trying to finish this client report." Moments later, Rick Saunders, a broad-shouldered man with an expensive suit and an air of arrogance, strolled past. His sharp gaze locked on Daniel. "Still working on that report?" Rick barked. "I just want to double-check the numbers," Daniel stammered. "You don't get to double-check," Rick snapped. "You get it done." I'll have it ready in 5 minutes, Daniel promised. "You'll have it ready now." Rick's voice cut through the room like a whip. "Or don't bother showing up tomorrow." Jonathan clenched his jaw. Rick's temper wasn't just bad leadership, it was intimidation. Throughout the day, Jonathan kept a close eye on Daniel. The young intern worked relentlessly, bouncing between projects, rushing to meet deadlines, and apologizing constantly. Jonathan noticed Daniel skipping his breaks and overheard him politely declining an invitation to grab lunch with co-workers. "Can't," Daniel muttered. "Still too much to finish." By late afternoon, Rick returned, pacing the office like a shark. "Where's the updated spreadsheet?" Rick barked, stopping at Daniel's desk. "Almost done," Daniel stammered, frantically typing. "Almost?" Rick sneered. "I gave you that file 3 hours ago. What's taking so long?" I wanted to verify the client invoices." "Oh, great," Rick interrupted, voice dripping with sarcasm. "The intern wants to run the numbers like he's some kind of financial expert." He laughed harshly, loud enough for others to hear. "Maybe, if you spent less time playing accountant, you'd actually finish something." The room fell silent. Daniel's face flushed red as employees awkwardly pretended not to notice. Jonathan's fists clenched. This wasn't just pressure. This was humiliation. Later that afternoon, Jonathan found Daniel in the break room, his head resting in his hands. "Rough day?" Jonathan asked gently. "More like a rough month," Daniel muttered, barely looking up. "I'm just trying to keep up." "You're doing great," Jonathan said. "I've seen how hard you're working." Daniel shook his head. "Rick doesn't see it that way. Every time I try to get something right, I mess up." His voice faltered. "I don't think I'm cut out for this." "Don't let him make you believe that," Jonathan said. "You've got the skills. Don't let Rick convince you otherwise." Daniel offered a faint smile, but doubt lingered in his eyes. Near closing time, Jonathan returned to his desk, but tension quickly filled the air when Rick's booming voice echoed from across the room. "Daniel!" Rick barked. "Get over here!" Daniel froze. Every employee looked up from their desks. "You call this finished?" Rick waved a printed report in the air. "This spreadsheet's a mess. There's a typo on page 2, and you forgot to sort the invoice totals." I thought I corrected that," Daniel stammered, his face pale. "Well, clearly you didn't," Rick growled. "I'll have to redo the whole thing now, because you're too incompetent to follow instructions." "I'm sorry," Daniel whispered. "I'll fix it right now." "No," Rick barked. "You've done enough." His cold eyes narrowed. "If you can't handle simple tasks, you don't belong here. Maybe you should just quit and stop wasting everyone's time." Daniel's face crumbled. His eyes darted across the room, finding no support among his silent co-workers. He grabbed his bag and bolted for the exit, his head down to hide the tears, welling in his eyes. Jonathan watched Daniel leave, then turned back to Rick. Enough was enough. This stops now, Jonathan muttered under his breath. Jonathan Wells sat in the break room, gripping his coffee cup tightly. His mind kept replaying what he'd witnessed. Rick Saunders berating Daniel, the overwhelmed intern who had been trying so hard. Jonathan knew this wasn't just an isolated outburst. Rick's behavior had poisoned the entire office. Fixing things wouldn't be easy, but Jonathan knew one thing. Rick had to go. Before confronting Rick, Jonathan knew he had to check on Daniel first. He found the young intern sitting alone outside the building, head down, nervously spinning a pen between his fingers. "Daniel," Jonathan called softly, approaching. "I'm good," Daniel mumbled. "I just needed some air." "You're not good," Jonathan said, sitting beside him. "I saw what happened. That wasn't your fault." Daniel shook his head. "Maybe Rick's right. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this." "No," Jonathan said firmly. "You're not the problem. He is." "But no, one's going to stop him," Daniel muttered. "People just stay quiet. It's easier that way." "Not this time," Jonathan said, standing. "Trust me." Back inside, Jonathan found Rick standing near the conference room, casually chatting with another supervisor. "Rick," Jonathan called. "We need to talk. Now." Rick smirked. "If this is about—" "Daniel, don't bother. Kid's not cut out for real work." "Your idea of real work seems to involve yelling and humiliating people," Jonathan snapped. "That's not leadership. That's bullying." Rick chuckled darkly. "Look, this isn't kindergarten. If Daniel can't handle a little pressure, maybe he should go find a job flipping burgers." "You're done here," Jonathan said coldly. "Oh, yeah?" Rick sneered. "Who exactly are you to say that?" Jonathan reached into his pocket and pulled out his business card. Jonathan Wells, CEO. Rick's smirk disappeared. His face turned pale. "Wait, you're—" "I've seen enough," Jonathan interrupted. "You've created a toxic environment, and I won't allow it to continue. Collect your things. Security. We'll escort you out." "I can fix this," Rick protested. "You had your chance," Jonathan said firmly. "Now it's my turn to fix what you've broken." That afternoon, Jonathan gathered the employees in the conference room. "I know things haven't been easy here," he began. "And I know many of you have been mistreated, especially Daniel." Jonathan gestured toward Daniel, who sat quietly at the back, still unsure of his place. "That ends today," Jonathan said. Rick's behavior wasn't just unprofessional, it was unacceptable. He's gone, and this office is going to change. Starting now, I'm asking each of you to help rebuild a better, safer work environment, one where everyone feels valued. For Tam, the first time since Jonathan had arrived, employees began to murmur with relief. Jonathan turned to Daniel. "Daniel, I know you've been through a lot, but I've seen your dedication and effort firsthand. You belong here, and I'm counting on you to help set the tone for what comes next." Daniel blinked in surprise. "Me? But I'm just an intern." "You're more than that," Jonathan said with a smile. "You're someone who works hard, even when no one's watching. That's exactly what this office needs." Over the next few days, Jonathan introduced new changes to rebuild the workplace culture. Weekly mentorship meetings to provide interns like Daniel with guidance and support. Employee feedback sessions to ensure staff had a voice in improving policies. Leadership, accountability protocols to ensure no one in management abused their authority again. "This place can be better," Jonathan told the team. "But it only works if we all step up." One evening, as Jonathan packed up to leave, he noticed Daniel still at his desk. "Still here?" Jonathan asked, smiling. "I just want to get this client report perfect," Daniel said, shuffling his notes nervously. "I'm not sure if—" "You'll be fine," Jonathan assured him. "You've got what it takes. And if you're stuck—" Ask for help. That's what a good team does. Daniel smiled. A real smile this time. I think I'm starting to believe that. The atmosphere in the office had shifted. With Rick Saunders gone, the tension that once hung in the air was lifting. Yet for Daniel, things still felt uncertain. Despite Jonathan Wells's words of encouragement, Daniel doubted his place at Wells Tech. I'm just the intern who got humiliated, he thought. People probably think I'm weak. But Daniel's chance to prove himself was coming, sooner than he expected. The morning after Rick's firing, Daniel sat quietly at his desk, sorting invoices. He overheard two employees, Tina and Kyle, whispering nearby. Think the intern will last, Kyle muttered. Rick said he couldn't handle the pressure. Yeah, Tina whispered back. I bet he's out in a week. Daniel's stomach knotted. They're right, he thought. I can't mess up again. Later that day, Jonathan stopped by Daniel's desk. Hey, Jonathan said, holding a file folder. I know you've been working hard, and I think you're ready for more responsibility. Me? Daniel asked, surprised. You've got a great eye. For details, Jonathan said. I need someone to organize client records for an important investor meeting. It's a huge deal, but I believe you can handle it. Daniel's pulse raced. Are you sure? I wouldn't ask if I wasn't, Jonathan assured him. You've got this. For the next few days, Daniel poured himself into the assignment. He spent hours cross-checking files, ensuring every contract, invoice, and account summary was accurate. But doubt gnawed at him. What if I mess this up? What if I miss something important? Finally, the night before the meeting, Daniel noticed a discrepancy. A client's payment had been processed twice. He felt panic rise. I should have caught this sooner, he thought. Jonathan's trusting me, and I'm failing him. Determined to fix it, Daniel stayed late, combing through documents until he traced the error to a data entry mistake. With relief, he corrected the numbers and recompiled the report. The next morning, Daniel anxiously watched as Jonathan presented the report to the company's investors. As Jonathan flipped through the pages, he paused at the corrected entry. I want to highlight something here, Jonathan said, addressing the room. There was a reporting error, but thanks to Daniel's sharp eye, we caught it before it became a major problem. The investors nodded in approval. Daniel's heart swelled with pride. I did it, he thought. I didn't fail. That afternoon, Jonathan approached Daniel's desk. You saved me back there, Jonathan said with a grin. Great work. Thanks, Daniel said. I didn't want to let you down. You didn't, Jonathan replied. And you proved something important. You belong here. For the first time in weeks, Daniel believed it too. With Daniel gaining confidence, Jonathan focused on restoring the team's morale. He called a staff meeting, encouraging employees to share concerns openly. This is your workplace, Jonathan said. If something's wrong, we want to know. Slowly, employees began to speak up. They shared frustrations about Rick's unfair treatment, lack of recognition, and unrealistic deadlines. From now on, Jonathan promised, things will be different. We're building a place where people feel valued, and that starts with listening to you. In the following weeks, Daniel's confidence grew. He began helping new interns navigate their tasks, offering guidance and support. One afternoon, he found a nervous intern named Marcus, struggling with spreadsheets. Hey, Daniel said, pulling up a chair. I can help you with that. I used to get stuck there too. Really? Marcus asked. I figured you just knew what you were doing. Daniel chuckled. Not at first, but trust me, you'll get there. Weeks later, Jonathan called Daniel into his office. I've been watching how you've stepped up lately, Jonathan said. You're not just working hard, you're helping others too. That's leadership. Daniel smiled shyly. I know what it's like to feel like you're failing. I didn't want anyone else to go through that. That's exactly why I want you to stay on with us, Jonathan said. How would you feel about joining the team full-time as an operations assistant? Daniel's eyes widened. Me? Really? You earned it, Jonathan said. And I know you'll keep making a difference. For the first time since starting at Wells Tech, Daniel didn't doubt himself. He smiled confidently and shook Jonathan's hand. I won't let you down. The weeks following Daniel's promotion to operations assistant marked a turning point for Wells Tech's regional office. Employees were more engaged, teamwork improved, and the oppressive atmosphere Rick had fostered seemed to dissolve. Yet, for Jonathan Wells, he knew this transformation wasn't finished. True change required lasting trust. And for Daniel, his journey was far from over. As operations assistant, Daniel's responsibilities expanded rapidly. He managed inventory, organized project timelines, and coordinated with multiple teams. While proud of his role, Daniel often felt the pressure mounting. One afternoon, while juggling emails and customer requests, Daniel's phone rang. It was Jonathan. Hey, Jonathan said warmly. I wanted to let you know that we're hosting a major client pitch next week. I'd like you to help present. Me? Daniel stammered. But I've never presented before. I know, Jonathan replied. But you've proven you know our processes better than anyone, and I trust you. Daniel swallowed hard. I'll do my best. That's all I ask, Jonathan said. And Daniel, you've got this. The following week, Daniel prepared relentlessly for the presentation, but self-doubt kept gnawing at him. What if I mess up? What if I freeze? The night before the pitch, Daniel sat at his desk, staring at his notes. Memories of Rick's voice echoed in his head. Maybe you should just quit and stop wasting everyone's time. Feeling overwhelmed, Daniel grabbed his jacket and stepped outside for air. As he leaned against a bench outside the office, Marcus, the new intern, approached. You okay? Marcus asked. Just nervous, Daniel admitted. I keep thinking I'm going to screw this up. You won't, Marcus said. You've been helping me since I started here, and you're good at this. Daniel chuckled. I was a mess when I started, worse than you. Maybe, Marcus grinned, but you didn't quit, and that's what counts. The next morning, Daniel stood at the front of the conference room beside Jonathan. The clients, influential investors, listened closely as Daniel walked them through key operations data, project timelines, and performance insights. When Daniel reached the financial analysis section, a client interrupted. Wait, he said, flipping through his notes. This projection doesn't match what we were sent last month. Daniel's heart raced. Did I mess up again? Actually, Daniel said, forcing himself to stay calm. That's because we adjusted the report after identifying an error in the original data. I caught the mistake during my review. Jonathan smiled proudly from across the room. Well done, the client nodded. Glad someone's paying attention. After the meeting, Jonathan found Daniel back at his desk, quietly organizing his notes. Hey, Jonathan said, you crushed it today. I almost lost it, Daniel admitted. When that client questioned me, I froze. But you didn't quit, Jonathan reminded him. You trusted yourself. And that's what matters. Daniel smiled, grateful for the encouragement. I guess I've come a long way. You have, Jonathan said, and I think you're ready for more. A week later, Jonathan gathered the team for a meeting. I wanted to take a moment to recognize someone who's shown incredible growth, resilience, and leadership, Jonathan announced. Daniel, come up here. Daniel nervously stepped forward as Jonathan handed him a certificate. Employee of the quarter for dedication, growth, and leadership. The office erupted in applause. Even Tina and Kyle, who once doubted him, joined in. You earned this, Jonathan told Daniel. Not because you were perfect, but because you refused to give up. Later that evening, Daniel sat in the break room, watching Marcus review his notes. Hey, Daniel said, sitting down beside him. If you ever need help, I've been there. Thanks, Marcus grinned. I'll take you up on that. Daniel smiled, feeling something he hadn't felt in a long time, pride in himself. He wasn't just the intern anymore. He was a leader. And thanks to Jonathan's belief in him, he knew his journey was only just beginning. If this story inspired you, remember, true strength comes from believing in yourself, even when others doubt you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this.